One of the very first choices you'll make in the world of Warframe is which weapons to start your journey with. This is one of those weapons. Welcome, Tenno, to the Warframe Visual Codex. My name is KitKat Splat, and this is the beginner's guide to the MK1 Braton. This guide is focused towards those new to Warframe, but the information contained within is accessible to all Tenno. In this guide, we'll be covering how you acquire the MK1 Braton, its base stats, and several practical builds you can use as you rank up. The MK1 Braton is one of two choices you will get for your first primary weapon when completing the introduction quest, Vor's Prize. If you select the MK1 Paris bow instead, don't worry. The MK1 Braton can be purchased directly from the market for 15,000 credits. This is one of the few weapons that can be purchased outright for credits, with no crafting involved. It also has no mastery rank requirement, so it can be equipped by any Tenno. The MK1 Braton focuses on being a decently accurate weapon with low recoil. This will help to keep your shots on point, a great feature for a starting weapon. This weapon also features increased slash or health damage, so enemies that rely on health, such as the infected, will die a lot faster. On the downside, it does low impact or shield damage, as well as low puncture or armor damage. You will definitely feel the reduced damage when fighting anything that has shields or armor. It also has both a low critical chance and a low critical multiplier, so this weapon is not reliable for critical damage. The weapon also has a very low status chance, so adding extra status effects will not happen often, if at all. With a magazine of 60 rounds, a fire rate of 7.5 rounds per second, and a reload time of 2 seconds, these stats provide a solid baseline you can use to gauge all future primary weapons against. Now, when it comes to builds for this gun, the MK1 Braton presents some challenges. It has no regular slots polarized, so this means we don't get any discounts for using certain mods in certain slots. And since this is the beginner version, I don't recommend using any forma to change this. I also wouldn't use an Orokin Catalyst to double the capacity, so we're only going to have the maximum of 30 capacity points once the gun is fully ranked up. Despite this limitation, I've made a couple of builds for this gun that will be accessible to most players using modules that tend to drop somewhat often when starting out. For our starting build, you'll want to prioritize equipping a Serration mod, which increases a rifle's base damage, and upgrade this mod 4 times. You'll also want to equip a Speed Trigger, which increases fire rate, and upgrade it twice. This will almost double each individual shot's damage, and will more than double your damage per second. These mod upgrades may seem a bit expensive when starting out. However, since these mods are staples of almost every beginner rifle build, I highly recommend these upgrades as early as possible. Once these mods are upgraded and your gun is starting to rank up, adding more capacity, where you upgrade from here depends mostly on whether or not you acquire the mod Split Chamber. If you don't have Split Chamber yet, you'll want to try to get a secondary elemental damage type added to the weapon. This is done by adding 2 mods, each of a different primary elemental damage type. Any 2 different types will do, so equip the first 2 you get and upgrade them twice. Once you have collected enough mods to have a choice though, I would recommend using an Infected Clip, which adds toxin damage, and a Stormbringer, which adds electricity damage. Combined, these 2 mods will create corrosive damage, which is great against armor, something that most enemies have. The upgrades for these 2 mods are less expensive than the original upgrade, but when added together with the first 2 mods, they will triple your damage and quadruple your damage per second from where you started. Again, since these mods are fairly standard for most starting rifle builds, and these upgrades are fairly cheap, I would also highly recommend these as soon as you can acquire the mods and fit them in. Once you've acquired Split Chamber, you can then choose a different route to get even more damage out of the gun. Instead of adding the 2 elemental mods, you'll want to upgrade your Split Chamber mod, which increases the number of bullets fired per shot without consuming extra ammo, to maximum, and upgrade your Serration mod from 4 to 5. This will push your damage slightly higher than the elemental build, as you can see, but the cost to increase these mods is more than the combined cost of all previous upgrades, including the cost of the gun. So while this slight increase in firepower may be worth it later on, I personally would focus towards the elemental build first. Using either the corrosive build or the split chamber build, I found that the MK1 Braton still performed well enough through Jupiter and Saturn without too much trouble, so using these builds should allow you to get a lot of life from this gun before needing to upgrade. And that's not too bad for a gun from the tutorial. If you find that you like the MK1 Braton and want more guns like it, you can look to any other gun that uses an auto-style trigger, such as the Baza, the Boltor, the Grakata, the Karak, and of course, the Braton. So overall, the MK1 Braton weapon is a fine starting weapon. It has good accuracy, a nice size clip, and can be fairly competent at mid-game without really having to upgrade the gun itself. It's definitely a great choice for a starting 10-0. However, I would also have to say it is only good for a starting 10-0, as its low damage and crit numbers keep the gun from being competitive even among the other Braton guns. You'll definitely find better weapons as you play, but for what you start with, you could do a lot worse. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. You can also reach out to me on Twitter at KitKatSplat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you, 10-0, among the stars.